Human guard issues deadly warning to alien queen. Your husband plans murder. HFY story. The palace of the Virelian queen stood like a mountain of light in the middle of the capital city. Tall towers curved into the sky, glowing with soft blue energy. Inside, long halls echoed with quiet steps, soft voices, and the hum of alien machines. Many races walked these halls, some tall and thin, some short and wide, some covered in scales or fur. Only one human walked among them as a guard. His name was Evan. Evan stood near the inner gate that led to the queen's private chambers. His armor was simple compared to the shining suits worn by alien guards, but it was clean and well kept. He held no heavy weapon, only a standard pulse baton at his side. His face was calm, but his eyes were always moving. He watched everything. Humans were rare in this empire. They were not strong like the stone giants, nor fast like the winged scouts, but humans had something the queen valued. They noticed small things. They remembered patterns. They asked questions in silence. Evan had served here for 2 cycles. In that time, nothing major had gone wrong. That was why the feeling in his chest worried him. Something was changing. Lord Kale walked down the hall with smooth steps. He wore dark royal robes edged with silver lines. His skin was pale gold, his eyes sharp and calm. He smiled as he passed guards, nodding with perfect manners. Everyone respected him. He was the queen's husband. He was kind in public, generous with praise, and careful with his words. Evan watched him pass and felt a tight pull in his gut. Lord Kale used to walk with open hands and relaxed shoulders. Now his hands often stayed closed. His steps were still smooth, but his eyes moved too much. He looked behind him more often than before. These were small things. No one else noticed. Evan noticed. When Lord Kale disappeared around the corner, Evan slowly breathed out. He turned his gaze back to the hall, but his mind stayed focused. He remembered another change. 2 guards who used to stand night watch near the east wing were gone, replaced without announcement. Replaced by guards loyal to the royal house, not the queen directly. That was not normal. Later that cycle, Evan was assigned to walk the lower corridor near the supply wing. The lights there were dimmer, and fewer nobles walked through. He heard voices before he saw anyone. He slowed his steps and stayed close to the wall. Lord Kale stood with 2 figures wrapped in dark cloaks. Their faces were hidden. Their voices were low. "The timing must be exact," Lord Kale said. His tone was calm but hard. "No mistakes." "It will be done," one cloaked figure replied. "The ceremony creates the perfect cover." Evan felt cold. Ceremony. There was a royal unity ceremony planned soon. Many guests, many distractions, many ways for an accident to happen. Evan shifted his weight by accident. The floor plate made a soft sound. Lord Kale's head snapped toward the corridor. "Who is there?" he called. Evan stepped forward into the light. He kept his face neutral. "Guard patrol," he said simply, "checking the lower corridor." Lord Kale studied him for a moment. Then he smiled. "Of course, you may continue." The cloaked figures were already gone, moving silently into another passage. Evan walked past without looking back. His heart beat fast, but his face showed nothing. Only when he turned the corner did he allow himself to breathe again. That night, Evan could not rest. He stood at his post, replaying the words in his mind. Timing, ceremony, perfect cover. He wanted to report it, but to whom? The palace command trusted Lord Kale. Accusing the queen's husband without proof would end badly. Humans did not have the power to survive political games here. Still, Evan watched. Over the next days, the signs grew. Storage rooms were sealed without notice. Energy routes near the main hall were rerouted. Security paths were changed, always in ways that created blind spots near the queen's path. Evan began writing notes in his private log. Times, names, changes, patterns. One evening he crossed paths with Myra, a small alien servant with soft gray skin and tired eyes. She carried food trays and moved quickly, always avoiding attention. "Careful," Evan said quietly when she nearly collided with him. She looked up, startled. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "You see it too, don't you?" Evan froze. "See what?" She hesitated. Then shook her head. "Nothing. Forget I spoke." But she did not meet his eyes as she walked away. That night, Evan followed Myra at a distance. Not close enough to be seen, but close enough to watch. She moved through servant paths and hidden halls that guards rarely used. She stopped near a locked door and slipped inside using a code. Evan marked the location in his mind. The next day, Evan requested a shift near the Queen's council chamber. Captain Rowe, a tall alien with thick armor and sharp horns, looked at him with mild annoyance. "Your current post is sufficient," the captain said. "No need for changes." Evan nodded. "Understood." Captain Rowe trusted noble blood more than foreign guards. Evan knew that. During the next palace meeting, Evan stood near the inner wall as the Queen passed. She was tall and elegant, her crown floating above her head with soft light. Her presence calmed the room. When she spoke, everyone listened. Lord Kale stood at her side, smiling. Evan looked at the distance between them, just half a step. Too perfect, too controlled. As the meeting ended, the Queen paused near Evan. Her eyes met his for a brief second. There was warmth there, trust. Evan felt a heavy weight in his chest. That evening, he returned to the lower corridor and accessed the door Myra had entered before. It took time, but he managed to open it. Inside, he found weapons. Compact, silent weapons designed for close-range use. Weapons meant for assassination, not war. His hands trembled slightly as he logged the evidence. Footsteps echoed behind him. "Curious place for a guard," a voice said. Evan turned. Captain Rowe stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "I was following an irregular signal," Evan replied calmly. Captain Rowe's eyes narrowed. "These weapons are under royal order." "Whose order?" Evan asked. The captain's jaw tightened. "That is not your concern," Evan knew then. The command was compromised. He left without argument, but now the danger was clear. That night, Evan stood outside the Queen's private hall. The lights inside were soft. He could hear distant voices. Lord Kale's voice among them. Evan took a slow breath. He stepped forward and requested entry. The inner guard hesitated but allowed him through. Inside, the Queen turned toward him. "Guard Evan," she said. "What brings you here at this hour?" Evan knelt as protocol demanded. "Your Majesty, I speak only to protect." Lord Kale's smile did not reach his eyes. Evan raised his head. "There is a threat forming within the palace, a plan tied to the upcoming ceremony." The room went silent. The Queen's expression changed just slightly. "Explain." Before Evan could speak further, Lord Kale stepped forward. "This is a serious claim," he said smoothly. "A dangerous one." Evan met his gaze. "So is silence." The Queen studied both of them. "You will bring proof," she said finally. "Strong proof." Evan nodded. "I will." As he turned to leave, he felt Lord Kale's eyes burn into his back. Outside the chamber, Evan knew one truth clearly. He had crossed a line, and if he failed, he would not live long enough to try again. Evan moved through the palace halls with careful steps. Every corner, every shadow, every whisper mattered. The palace was alive with movement, but humans like him saw things others missed. He noticed small details: the placement of a guard, the shift of a shadow, a hand held a little too long on a railing. Something was wrong, and he had to prove it before it was too late. The Queen's husband, Lord Kale, continued his charming public acts. In front of most, he smiled, nodded, and gave orders with perfect grace. But Evan had learned to read the moments in between. When Kale thought no one was watching, his eyes flicked sharply to corners, his hand brushed against hidden weapons, and his tone carried an edge no one else noticed. That evening, Evan met Myra quietly in a secluded hallway. The small alien servant glanced around nervously. "I saw it again," she whispered. "The weapons are being moved. More guards are changing and some passages are blocked for no reason. Evan nodded. We need more proof. The Queen won't believe rumors. Myra's eyes widened. I don't want trouble, but I'll help. Together, they began a slow, careful investigation. They moved through servant paths, maintenance tunnels, and storage rooms. Myra had memorized every secret route in the palace, and Evan's sharp eyes caught small inconsistencies, missing floor panels, altered security circuits, and hidden containers. Each discovery added a piece to the puzzle. At night, Evan hid near the Queen's ceremonial chamber. From his vantage point, he could see Lord Kale enter, followed by two cloaked figures carrying crates. Evan's heart pounded. He knew that ceremony weapons were being smuggled into secure areas. The plan for assassination was closer than he feared. Evan tried to contact Captain Rowe, but the alien captain's loyalties lay with the royal house. When he mentioned irregular movements, Rowe dismissed him. It is normal preparation, the captain said, his voice cold. Do not overthink your duty. Evan understood the problem. Proof had to be undeniable. Without it, no one would act and the Queen would remain vulnerable. That night, he returned to the hidden chamber Myra had shown him before. Inside were small, sleek weapons, silent, deadly, designed to strike fast. Each one was carefully labeled and stored. Evan's fingers traced the edge of a pulse blade. This was no ordinary military stock. Someone planned to kill the Queen, and they had chosen precision over chaos. Footsteps approached. Evan moved into the shadows, pressing against the wall. Captain Rowe entered the room, eyes scanning. Evan's heart thumped loudly in his chest, but his face remained calm. These weapons are under royal order, Rowe said, his voice carrying authority. Evan met his gaze steadily. Whose order? That is not for you to question, Rowe said. Leave before your curiosity becomes treason. Evan nodded slowly and left. His mind raced. The captain was compromised, or at least unwilling to protect the Queen. He had no ally among the official guards. He returned to his post outside the Queen's chamber, the weapons hidden from sight but heavy in his mind. Lord Kale's voice drifted from inside, calm and polite, yet there was an edge of command that set Evan's instincts on fire. He couldn't wait. The ceremony was only days away. Every delay could cost the Queen her life. The next day, Evan observed the palace closely. He noticed more guards shifting positions, more secret doors being sealed, and strange deliveries that seemed innocent but carried dangerous cargo. He followed Myra again through the maze of tunnels where she pointed out subtle anomalies, loose floor panels, hidden ventilation shafts, and passages where no one should be. This is where they move the weapons, she whispered. They think no one watches. Evan took mental notes, memorizing the layout. He also memorized faces, the cloaked figures, the new guards, the workers who seemed to carry messages in hushed tones. Every detail mattered. At night, Evan risked entering one of the restricted halls. He moved silently, crouching low. The corridor smelled of metal and machine oil. At the end, he saw a crate being opened, small weapons revealed, carefully counted and checked. Two cloaked figures argued quietly, and Lord Kale's hand rested lightly on one of the crates. Evan's heart sank. There was no longer any doubt. The Queen's life was in immediate danger. He moved back into the shadows, thinking quickly. He could confront the Queen now, but without proof, she might not believe him. Worse, Lord Kale's spies were everywhere. One wrong move and he could be captured or killed. The following day, he requested an audience with the Queen. The Queen looked at him with calm authority. "Guard Evan," she said. "What brings you to my presence at this hour?" Evan knelt respectfully. "Your Majesty, I speak only to protect you. There is a threat forming within this palace, a plan tied to the upcoming ceremony. I have proof." Lord Kale stepped forward, his expression polite but firm. "This is a serious claim," he said, "a dangerous one." Evan met his gaze. "Silence is more dangerous." The Queen studied both men. Her eyes, full of wisdom and trust, flicked between Evan and her husband. "Bring me proof," she said finally. "Strong proof. Without it I cannot act." Evan rose. He had accepted the Queen's challenge. He had only a few days to stop a plot that could end her life. That evening, he returned to the hidden chamber with Myra. Together, they catalogued the weapons, documented movements, and traced the secret paths. Every night, Evan risked exposure. Every night, Lord Kale's influence grew stronger, making every step more dangerous. Evan learned one truth. In this palace, loyalty could be hidden, deception could be elegant, and courage alone was the line between life and death. Days passed. The ceremony approached. The palace became more tense, the air heavy with anticipation. Evan continued to watch, record, and plan. Myra brought him new information daily. Finally, the night before the ceremony, Evan pieced everything together. He knew the exact time, location, and method of the attack. His mind raced with possibilities. The Queen would believe him if he acted carefully. As he stood outside her chamber that night, he saw the soft light spilling from the doorway. Lord Kale's voice floated out, calm and smooth, unaware that Evan now held the knowledge that could save a life. Evan's hand rested on the wall. His pulse raced. He had crossed invisible lines of trust and loyalty. Every step now was dangerous, every breath a risk. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He would warn the Queen. He would stop the plan. But first, he needed a way to make her believe him completely. And in the quiet palace, where shadows moved and secrets whispered, Evan understood the truth about humans. They were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most powerful, but when it came to protecting others, they were relentless. The night stretched long, the palace silent except for Evan's quiet steps. Tomorrow, everything would change. The Queen's life, the palace's loyalty, and the path of humans in this alien world would be decided by one human guard who refused to look away. Evan moved silently through the corridors, his senses sharp and alert. Every step, every sound, every flicker of light mattered. The palace was alive with movement, but Evan noticed details others missed. Guards changing shifts without explanation, doors that were locked or opened in secret, subtle shifts in the flow of people. All of it told a story that no one else could see. Myra guided him through the servant passages once more. "This way," she whispered, pointing toward a maintenance tunnel hidden behind a supply closet. "They move the weapons here. The main halls are too watched." Evan nodded, his eyes scanning the walls for traps or hidden watchers. Every step carried risk. If Lord Kale's spies caught him, it could mean death. But he had no choice. The Queen's life depended on him seeing everything clearly. Inside the tunnel, crates stacked neatly against the walls contained small, lethal weapons. Pulse knives, compact blasters, and strange energy devices, all intended for close range. Evan crouched low, carefully inspecting the arrangement. Each crate was labeled with timing instructions. The attackers planned to strike during the upcoming ceremony when the palace would be crowded and attention would be divided. "Why would they do it here?" Myra whispered. "This corridor is rarely used. Only servants know it exists." "Because," Evan said quietly, "it keeps the palace blind to their movements. The ceremony will be chaos and they will hide in plain sight." As they moved back through the tunnel, a sudden noise made them freeze. Footsteps, deliberate and heavy, echoed down the hall. Evan pressed Myra against the wall, holding his pulse steady. Two guards, loyal to Lord Kale, passed by, eyes sweeping the corridor carefully. They carried small energy scanners and whispered between themselves. Evan counted their steps. When the guards were gone, he exhaled silently. "They are tightening control. Every day it will be harder to move undetected." The next morning, Evan attempted to contact Captain Rowe. The head of the palace guards had always been skeptical of human input, but Evan hoped for support. "Captain, irregular activity is increasing. Weapons are being moved into hidden areas and shifts are being altered without notice," Evan reported. Rowe frowned. "You are overstepping, guard. These are royal orders. Do not involve yourself where it is not needed. Evan clenched his fists. He had no ally among the official guards. The Queen's life depended entirely on his human instinct and Myra's knowledge. That evening, Evan returned to the chamber Myra had shown him before. He took detailed notes of each crate and device, mapping their locations and timing schedules. Every detail mattered. He memorized the layout of the tunnel system, the hidden alcoves, and the security blind spots. Each path Lord Kale had prepared for the attack was now catalogued in Evan's mind. Later, he observed Lord Kale from a distance. The husband moved gracefully through the halls, interacting with nobles and guards. His smile was calm, his demeanor perfect, but Evan saw the tension beneath the surface. Kale's eyes shifted constantly, checking corners, glancing at guards, and subtly signaling to those around him. He was confident, too confident. Evan followed him to a secluded chamber. Lord Kale met with the two cloaked figures again. This time their conversation was sharp. "The timing cannot fail," Kale said. "If the Queen survives the ceremony, everything we have planned collapses." The cloaked figure bowed. "It will succeed. The humans are too late to interfere." Evan felt his stomach tighten. "Not if I can help it," he whispered to himself. He retreated into the shadows and memorized every word. He knew now that the attack was imminent. The ceremony was only days away, and the plan was precise. If nothing was done, the Queen would die in front of the entire court. Evan tried to sleep that night but could not. His mind raced with possibilities. He could confront the Queen now, but without absolute proof, she might not believe him. Worse, Lord Kale's spies could intercept any warning. The next day, he enlisted Myra again. Together, they moved through the hidden passages to photograph and document everything without being seen. Myra's small size and agility made her perfect for sneaking through vents and narrow shafts, while Evan's sharp human eyes caught details that the aliens overlooked. As they worked, Evan noticed that some of the palace staff had begun to behave strangely. They avoided his gaze, whispered more cautiously, and moved with hesitation. The web of deception was spreading. Lord Kale's influence was strong, and trust was thinning. Late that night, Evan returned to the Queen's private hall. He had gathered enough evidence to prove the threat, but presenting it safely was a challenge. He knocked softly. The Queen opened the door, her expression curious but calm. "Your Majesty," Evan said, bowing slightly. "I have proof of a plan against you. The weapons, the timing, and the locations are all documented. I need you to see them." Lord Kale appeared behind her suddenly, his smile polite but dangerous. "This is a serious claim," he said smoothly. "A dangerous one." Evan met his gaze steadily. "So is silence." The Queen's eyes flicked between the two men. Her voice was firm but measured. "Show me the proof, Evan. Without it, I cannot act." Evan handed her a small device containing all the evidence. The Queen examined it carefully, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock as she realized the full scale of the threat. Lord Kale's smile faltered slightly, but he quickly regained composure. "I see you take your duties seriously," he said. "Very well. We will see if your claims hold merit." Evan left the chamber quietly, heart pounding. The Queen now had the proof she needed, but the danger had only grown. Lord Kale knew the plot was exposed and would act quickly to adjust his plan. In the days that followed, Evan continued his watch. He mapped the hidden tunnels, memorized patrol routes, and recorded the movements of everyone connected to the plan. Myra brought him updates from the servant passages. Every day was a careful dance between observation and survival. Evan realized one truth clearly. He was alone. Most of the palace guards were loyal to the royal family or to Lord Kale. Only he and Myra could act with freedom, and the clock was ticking. Finally, the night before the ceremony, Evan reviewed his notes. He knew the exact locations, timing, and methods of the attack. Every possible scenario had been considered. Now he had to prepare a way to warn the Queen safely, without alerting Lord Kale or triggering retaliation. He stood outside the Queen's chamber one last time, the palace silent except for distant footsteps and the hum of alien lights. Tomorrow, everything would be decided. The Queen's life, the palace's future, and the place of humans in this alien world depended on a single warning and a single choice. Evan's hand rested on the wall. His pulse raced, but his resolve was firm. He would act. He would not look away, and he would not fail. The palace slept, but in the shadows, the first moves of a deadly game had begun. Evan moved through the palace with quiet determination. The corridors were no longer calm. Tension hung in the air like a storm about to break. Guards whispered nervously to one another, and even the palace staff seemed uneasy. Word had begun to spread that something was wrong, though no one knew the full truth. Only Evan knew the depth of the threat, and time was slipping away. The Queen had reviewed the proof he brought, her face pale but resolute. Lord Kale had not been idle. He had adjusted his plans, moving loyal forces and hiding weapons in new locations. The palace was a maze of shifting dangers, and Evan had to anticipate every move. That evening, Evan received a secret message from Myra. She had discovered that Lord Kale planned to strike during a private gathering in the inner halls. "He expects everyone to be distracted," she whispered, handing him a small device containing the new information. "The guards have been replaced. Some are loyal to him, not the Queen." Evan's heart beat faster, but his mind remained calm. "We will not let him succeed," he said. "We have to act now before the gathering begins." He moved quickly, mapping the safest paths to the Queen's location while avoiding patrols loyal to Kale. Myra stayed close, guiding him through narrow tunnels and forgotten passages. Their small team was moving against overwhelming odds, but Evan's human determination was unmatched. As they reached the inner hall, Evan saw Lord Kale standing among the guests, smiling as if nothing were wrong. His eyes flicked toward Evan for a brief second, a subtle warning. Evan returned the gaze, steady and unwavering. He would not be intimidated. The first wave of chaos came suddenly. A group of Kale's hidden guards moved to block the exits. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready to strike. Evan reacted immediately, using his baton and agility to disarm and incapacitate them quietly. Myra helped guide the loyal palace staff and minor guards to safety. The Queen, seeing the sudden disturbance, remained calm. Her eyes searched the hall and landed on Evan. Recognition and trust flashed across her face. She understood immediately that the threat was real. Lord Kale stepped forward, his composure unshaken. "Do you think a human guard can stop what is already in motion?" he asked, his tone smooth but full of hidden menace. Evan moved closer, keeping himself between Kale and the Queen. "I protect the innocent," he said quietly but firmly. "No one will harm her while I live." The hall erupted into a tense battle. Guards loyal to Kale clashed with loyal palace guards, and the humans and Myra moved strategically to keep the Queen safe. The sounds of struggle echoed through the grand chambers, but Evan's focus never wavered. Every movement, every decision was calculated to protect the Queen while avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. At one point, Kale confronted Evan directly. His voice was cold and controlled. "You are only human. You cannot stop me." Evan stood his ground, baton raised. "Humans are stronger than you think," he said. "We fight for what is right, even when we are alone." The two clashed, skill against skill, wit against wit. Evan managed to disable Kale's weapon temporarily, buying precious moments for the Queen to move to safety. Loyal guards began to rally around her, inspired by Evan's courage and determination. The Queen, though shaken, found her strength. She gave orders with precision, directing loyal forces to contain Kale's supporters. Her calm presence steadied the hall, and slowly, the tide began to turn. Kale, realizing his plan was unraveling, attempted to retreat to a hidden chamber where he had stored additional weapons. Evan pursued him, moving through twisting corridors and avoiding traps that Kale had prepared in advance. Each step was a test of human courage and instinct. Finally, they reached the chamber. Kale turned to face Evan, his expression a mix of rage and disbelief. "You cannot stop me," he shouted, drawing a concealed weapon. Evan met the strike, deflecting it with his baton. Every movement was precise, every reaction calculated. He fought not for victory, but to protect the queen and her throne. The struggle was fierce, but Evan's persistence paid off. Kale stumbled, his allies having already been neutralized by loyal guards. With one final maneuver, Evan disarmed him completely. Kale fell to his knees, defeated not just by strength, but by human determination and courage. The queen entered the chamber, her gaze sharp and unwavering. She looked at Kale, then at Evan. "Justice will be served," she said, her voice calm but full of authority. Kale was taken into custody, his plans foiled and his influence broken. The loyal palace guards secured the chamber, and peace began to return to the palace, though tension remained in the air. Evan stepped back, his body aching but his mind focused. The queen approached him, her expression a mixture of gratitude and respect. "You saved my life," she said simply, "and perhaps the future of this palace." Evan shook his head. "I only did what was necessary," he replied. "Humans protect those who cannot protect themselves." The queen nodded. "Then you will remain in my service," she said, "not just as a guard but as a trusted protector." Evan felt the weight of responsibility but also a quiet satisfaction. The palace was safe for now, the queen alive, and the influence of Lord Kale ended. Yet he knew the battle was more than just this night. In a world filled with power, deception, and ambition, vigilance would always be required. As dawn broke, the palace shimmered with light. The citizens and guests would speak of the events in hushed tones for years, though few would know the full story. The human guard, quiet and determined, would be remembered only by those who truly understood courage. Evan returned to his post, his eyes scanning the halls. Myra stood nearby, offering a small smile. Together they had faced overwhelming odds and survived. Together they had protected the queen. In the shadows of the palace, human resolve had proven its worth. Strength was not measured by size or power alone, but by the courage to act when all seemed lost. The palace was calm again, but Evan knew the vigilance must continue. Evil could always rise again, and the next threat could be even greater. But for now, humanity had stood its ground, and the queen's life and her throne remained secure. The palace lights glimmered softly as Evan walked the corridors, alert and ready. One human, determined and fearless, had changed the fate of an empire. And the story of that night, though unseen by most, would ripple through the palace for years to come. The palace was quiet before dawn, but the tension in the air was thick. Lord Kale had been captured, but Evan knew the danger was not fully over. Kale had allies hidden throughout the palace, loyal servants, corrupt guards, and cloaked figures who might strike if the opportunity arose. One mistake now could undo everything. Evan moved through the corridors with Myra close at his side. Each step was careful, each shadow checked. He had memorized every hidden passage, every blind spot, and every escape route. Tonight, he would ensure that no one could carry out Kale's final plan. The queen had gathered her loyal advisors and guards in the inner chamber. Her expression was calm, but her eyes reflected the weight of the betrayal she had endured. "Evan," she said, her voice steady, "you have saved my life more than once. Tonight we must ensure the palace is completely secure." Evan nodded. "We cannot trust anyone still untested," he said. "Kale may have left traps, and there are still those who would try to finish what he started." Myra guided them to a hidden observation deck overlooking the main halls. From here, Evan could see the palace entrances and corridors, the servants moving quietly and the guards stationed strategically. Every path Kale could use had been mapped, every potential ambush considered. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the far corridor. A cloaked figure slipped past the patrols holding a small energy device. Evan tensed. "There," he whispered. "That is one of Kale's remaining allies." He moved swiftly, signaling Myra to follow. Using the secret tunnels, they approached the figure from behind. Evan's human reflexes allowed him to catch the intruder by surprise, disabling the device before it could detonate. Myra restrained the figure while Evan called for loyal guards to secure the area. As they returned to the Queen's chamber, Evan felt a cold sense of urgency. He knew Kale had planned one final attempt, a direct confrontation with the Queen, perhaps in her private chambers or at the ceremony. Time was running out. Evan and Myra moved quickly to the ceremonial hall. They arrived to find Lord Kale standing in the shadows, his expression twisted with rage. He had slipped past the initial patrols, seeking a private opportunity to strike. "You should have stayed out of this, human," Kale hissed. "You cannot stop me now." Evan stepped forward, baton in hand. "I protect the innocent," he said. "No one will harm her while I am alive." Kale lunged and the two clashed. The sounds of struggle echoed through the hall. Kale was skilled and ruthless, but Evan's human determination and strategic mind gave him an edge. Every strike Kale made was met with a calculated response. Myra moved to secure the exits, preventing Kale's allies from entering. Loyal palace guards arrived just in time to support Evan, surrounding Kale and cutting off escape routes. The fight was intense, but Evan's focus never wavered. He was fighting for more than survival. He was fighting for justice, for loyalty, and for the Queen's life. Finally, with one precise maneuver, Evan disarmed Kale completely. The former royal husband fell to his knees, defeated. The remaining cloaked figures surrendered, seeing that their plan had failed. The Queen entered the hall, her expression calm but resolute. She looked at Kale, then at Evan. "Justice will be served," she said. Her voice carried authority and finality. Kale was taken into custody, his influence and schemes destroyed. The palace slowly returned to order, though tension lingered like a shadow. The Queen addressed her people, acknowledging the loyalty and bravery of those who had acted to protect her, including Evan. "You have proven the value of vigilance, courage, and loyalty," she said. "In a time of betrayal, humanity has stood strong among us." "Evan, your actions have saved this palace and its people," Evan bowed humbly. "I did what any human would do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." The Queen nodded. "And for that, you will remain as our protector. Not just a guard, but a trusted advisor and shield for those in need." In the days that followed, the palace underwent careful review. Guards were reassigned, hidden traps were removed, and the remaining loyal staff were honored for their service. Myra received recognition for her courage, and Evan was offered rank and authority within the palace. He accepted only a position that allowed him to continue protecting the Queen and those who could not defend themselves. Evan knew the palace would face threats in the future, but one lesson had been made clear. Courage, intelligence, and loyalty were more powerful than any weapon. A human had stood against overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, saving not just a life, but the fate of an empire. The Queen and Evan stood together in the grand hall, looking over the palace grounds. The city outside shimmered in the morning light, unaware of how close it had come to disaster. The Queen placed a hand on Evan's shoulder, a silent gesture of trust and respect. Evan's gaze swept the palace, alert and vigilant. He knew challenges would come again, but for now, humanity had proven its worth. Not through strength alone, but through determination, courage, and the willingness to act when all others hesitated. The palace was at peace, and the Queen's throne secure. A human guard had changed the course of history, proving that even in a world of towering alien power, loyalty and bravery could make all the difference. And so, in the quiet halls of the palace, humanity's mark was left indelibly, remembered not by words, but by actions that saved a life, a throne, and an empire. The story ended, but its lesson echoed. Courage and honor know no species, and a single human could stand as a shield against even the greatest of betrayals.